For Joe Azalina, I am Derek Gano. Thank you as always for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. Please don't forget, follow us on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube to get all of our videos, and of course on all podcast platforms if you would like to listen. Our last episode was top five catchers currently in MLB. So if you missed that video, feel free to jump back and check that one out. Joe, what do we got planned for today?
Well, we are going to go to a division that I was definitely I'm trying to think of the right word right off the bat here, and I would say underwhelming. The division of being underwhelmed is what I thought when I was researching this division. It's the National League Central, and yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see what we can provide our listeners of what we're thinking, what happened the last year, 2 years, and what could be coming in store for this interesting division. And also, I will really like to say that if there's anybody out there in Timeout Nation, Timeout Land, whatever, if you will, just to please let us know what team you cheer for in the National League Central if you are a National League Central fan. Because if I'm a National League Central fan, I flip a coin. So, Derek, that's what I got from over here.
Well, and it is very interesting because I believe this was the only division last year. Now, granted, there were 8 teams that made the playoffs, but 4 of the 5 made the playoffs in the NL Central. And we could go to potentially not even one deserving it, but
Right.
we'll see. We'll see. And where we're gonna start, we're going in alphabetical order here for those that don't know. So we're gonna start with the Chicago Cubs. Last year, Chicago actually finished first at 34 and 26, first in the division, but they were upset to the upstart Miami Marlins 2 games to 0 in the NL wild card. Coach David Ross, former catcher for the Cubs, is back for his second season. Of course, he was 34 and 26 uh, with Chicago last year. So Joe, let's start with some additions and subtractions for the Cubs. Some new names joining the Cubs this year. We have Jock Peterson, left-handed bat from the Dodgers for quite a while now. Trevor Williams, starting pitcher. Jake Marisnick, probably a fourth outfielder. Jake Arrieta, former Philly, as well as Brandon Workman, former Philly, both going to Chicago, and players they lost this year, going into this year. Yu Darvish was traded away, as well as his personal catcher, Victor Caratini. John Lester is gone. Jose Quintana is gone. Kyle Schwarber is gone. Albert Amora Jr. is gone, amongst others. Joe, immediate reactions when you started delving into Chicago. What were your thoughts?
Well, to me, right away, the lineup is definitely capable of scoring runs. I will say that. It looks like they're going to start out with Ian Happ leading off. Uh, Now, I wouldn't be shocked if Peterson also wouldn't lead off if he starts. Now, that brings me to, does he start? Because you have Michael Haramiso, if I'm pronouncing that name right. He's definitely a guy to look for because he's a young guy. He's not a guy that's been around. I don't think. I'm pretty sure he's one of their younger
Right.
players,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So Peterson and him will probably, and I think he's a right-handed batter too. He is. So they could platoon out and left. You have Bryant Rizzo Baez. Derek, that's where you're going to find your power. Now, Bryant only had 4 home runs last year. Anthony Rizzo had 11, and Baez had 8. They got to do better than that. I know it's a shortened season, but they still only hit 200s. Nobody hit over 220. Contreras had a pretty good season at 26 RBIs. His power numbers were down. So I just question. I mean, they lost Schwarber, like you said. Jason Hayward's aging. I, I don't see it in the lineup. Unless, like I said, those big guys can have big years. But man alive, they don't have a rotation. I mean, that is just, it's a black hole. I mean,
I will say, well, we'll stick with the lineup for now. I think
sure.
Jock Peterson probably has that
Edge.
position as long as he doesn't completely flame out. He's probably someone could potentially get 30 home runs. So
Heck of a power guy, yeah.
you have to, I guess it has to be said, um, Rizzo, Anthony Rizzo probably hitting, second, and then Bryant and Baez are all in their last years of their contracts. So is this almost a last run for them? It seems like it was a little interesting because, and we had talked about it, they got rid of Darvish, who finished third in the Cy Young voting, I believe, last year. They got rid of older, experienced guys. Lester Quintana traded away let Kyle Schwarber go. You thought they were almost completely breaking it up. What rumors were Chris Bryant was going. Contreras, I think, rumors was going. Um, do we see that this might be it? So they brought in some other pieces, but that might not be quite enough to get this team to winning the division, I would say.
Yeah, because Darvish is a big loss. I mean, he's a really good pitcher. That's kind of goes without saying. He's one of the better pitchers in the National League. And it's funny because he stays in the National League but goes out west. So
Yeah.
Kyle Hendricks gonna have to have a big year. He had a 2.88 ERA, but he's not an ace. He's not an ace on a lot of teams. Zach Davies at a 2.73 ERA, a guy coming over in the deal for Darvish from San Diego. Again, he's a guy that hasn't really done a lot in the major leagues. I mean, he's okay. He's just okay. He's like a 3-4 on a really good team. And then the interesting name, Derek, I'll throw out there though, who the Cubs have in their top 10 prospects. He's number 3 is right-hander, 26-year-old Albert Alzolay. And Alzolay is actually out of options, so he has to be in the club. And he's got an impressive sinker slider combination. So look for him to maybe be the Darvish, because Darvish was that guy. He threw the sinker and the slider. And then Jake Arrieta, Derek. He's rounding out the other with Alec Mills. It looks like could take the other spot, I guess. I don't see it. What do you see in the rotation? And do you see a guy like Kyle Hendricks to step up and be the ace?
Well, I don't hate the rotation that much, honestly. So you mentioned Zach Davies, so he had, and maybe he figured something out. We don't know.
Find
Coming
out.
over from San Diego, but he had career best marks last year. In ERA at 2.73. His WHIP was a career low 1.07, and K percentage was at an all-time high. One of the best him and Hendricks have one of the best changeups in probably the division and maybe even the league. Will Davies keep that going? That's tough to say, because he has 5 years in the league. He's never pitched that well, has Davies. I think Hendricks will be a very solid top rotation starter. Probably going to get opening day. He did even when Darvish was there. I truly, where the rest of the guys come in, Alec Mills, I know flirted with a no-hitter last year. Trevor Williams is an interesting pitcher coming over from Pittsburgh, but
Is he lefty? Because that's another thing.
no, they're all, and that's the other thing, they're
They
all
have no
right-handed.
lefties.
So,
Wow, that's going
but
to be
Williams
interesting.
had a 6 ERA last year. He had a 5.3 in 2019. So the back end isn't quite there. You mentioned Alzolay, so he's the number 5. Well, he was last year the number 5 prospect. I think he has too many innings, so he's not technically a prospect
Oh,
anymore.
that's
But
why. Yeah.
He'll probably be going for the fourth and fifth spot. It'll probably be between Alec Mills, Trevor Williams, Azalea. Um, I
Arietta.
think it needs to be said, Joe, that people like Baez, Bryant, Craig Kimbrell, who is probably in line to be closing right now,
I would
even though he
think.
had over 5 ERA. Arrieta, they need it in order to make the Cubs a contender for the division. They all need to get back to their,
Career
I
years.
wouldn't say their elite level, but
Pretty
at least
close.
better than what they've been. That's for sure, right?
Right. And I also think that, like, this is one thing that I can't wrap my head around, but they don't even have a bench, Derek. That was going to be another question I had. PJ Higgins, the backup catcher, Ildemaro Vargas, who had 220, an infielder, Max Sherrock, 176 infielder, Ian Miller, outfielder. Now, David Bodie's the only name I really know on that list. He had 29 RBIs. He plays, I think, at least second and third. My question to you is, they're looking at Sherrock and Vargas to be short-term guys, and Haramiso out in the outfield. What they need someone to step up, don't they, in the bench?
Well,
None of those names.
I think Austin Romine will probably get the backup
Oh, they
job
just signed
for.
him.
They
That's
just
right.
signed him.
Good
He'll
call.
probably get the
Good
catcher
call.
position.
Yeah.
And Jake Marisnik, that's another one. They just signed him for the outfield. So, and yeah, I see Vargas and
Sherrock.
Marisnik will probably be switching
Yeah, he'll
out with
factor in
Howard
there.
or Hayward. Yeah, it's not. No, it's not the best bench, and they kind of struggled in that divisional series with scoring runs. I don't know. I think
Well,
they're again going to be kind of all or nothing, and
yeah.
a lot of
Home
power
run
hitters.
balls.
Yeah,
Right.
but not a lot of
Strikeouts.
average hitters.
No.
Um, I will just talk briefly about their farm system here. Some guys to look out for. Braylon Marquette. Again, these stats are from MLB.com, according to MLB.com, top 100 prospects. So each team has a couple. Braylon Marquez is the number 60 prospect. He's a left-handed pitcher. Probably will be up around mid 2021, maybe end of 2021. Elite fastball
Yep.
that hits triple digits, above
Yeah.
average slider, which would make sense that he dominates left-handers. Being he's also 6'4" with a 3/4 arm slot, they say, so it's almost like a sidearm.
Not Billy Wagner. He's not
No,
going to be like,
no,
you think about that because of the
yeah, he's a
speed, but
starter.
he's a big guy. Oh, and he's a starter. I didn't realize he was a
Yes,
starter.
yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
well, whether they use him for that, we'll see. I think he got some
Okay.
time last year as a bullpen, and he just didn't do
Didn't do
well at
it.
all.
Okay. Gotcha.
So look for Marquez potentially this year. Another name is Brennan Davis, ranked number 61 outfielder. Potentially 2022. You see him, could be, they say, a 30-30 center fielder, which is pretty crazy. And then Miguel Amaya is number 89. He's a catcher, also 2022, looking like he'll be up. More of a defensive catcher. So, Joe, before we get going to the next team, let's talk about some strengths and weaknesses that we have for the Chicago Cubs that they might need in order to win this Central Division.
All right. So two strengths I see, definitely, like you said, there's some power there with Baez and Bryant and Rizzo. I would say the bullpen is a little bit of a strength because, as I noted earlier, and as I was looking at it, you got Kimbrel as a closer, veteran. Rowan Wick has had a pretty good couple seasons, I know. And Dan Winkler has been a tough righty too. You know, they have arms out there, so I wouldn't say if the starters struggle that they won't be afraid to go to the bullpen. David Ross, Derek, I just don't think they're going to compete with the Brewers and the Cardinals because they're two of the teams that I think are dangerous. And they're going to be like the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's my prediction.
Um, so I have for the Cubs, they have the same core. The same core is together. It's been there for a while. We mentioned all the big names, but even people like Jason Hayward have been there for a while. Familiarity, they all kind of know each other. And Kyle Hendricks, I have as a strength. I think he's going to lead that rotation. But as far as weaknesses, I don't see much pitching depth. We talked about Mills and Williams and Azole, who could end up being a long reliever. You said they don't have any more options for him, so he makes the team or he doesn't. So I would assume they would put him in the bullpen if he doesn't win a rotation job. But there's not a ton in AAA, so I worry about that. And no lefty starters. We mentioned that. Nothing from the other side.
Oda
And I
Rizzi, I was
guess
going to ask you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna. Sorry about interrupting, but I don't listen. They just, who just signed today? Scott Kazmir. Like, if I was a Cubs, right? And it brought me back to like circa 2000 something, because he was a Mets prospect, but he did sign with the Giants today. For people that didn't know that, I want to say that they probably should have gotten a lefty. They should have been where your Mariners were, getting James Paxton. Maybe that would have been an interesting move for the Cubs. They probably should play in the Odorizzi market. It's only $5 million. He only wants $5 a year for 3 years. Now, maybe that's what they're scared of. But Jake Odorizzi is going to sign a contract like Arrieta. You wait. He's going to sign for bigger money than people thought, and it's going to be like a 3 to 4 year deal. I don't know who's giving it to him, though.
I guess it's for me. It's just where what's the game plan for them? Are they trading off? If they start slow, are they getting rid of all those guys and starting
Jed
over?
Hoyer's
who knows?
there, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
As far as where we have all these teams, we'll talk about that at the end when we're done with all the divisions, but you might be able to tell based on how we're talking. Moving on to the Cincinnati Reds. Last year, the Reds finished third in the division at 31-29, made the playoffs, lost 2-0 to the Atlanta Braves in the NL wildcard, had a historically horrible offensive series, including a game that I think went like 16 innings and they couldn't score a run.
Trevor Bauer threw 9 of those, I think.
Yeah. Coach David Bell enters his third season at 106-116. We'll start with the additions and subtractions. You'll notice that if we're on a seesaw, Joe, we're leaning in one direction here. Additions: Sean Doolittle and No Ramirez, who is a middle reliever from the Angels. That's it. Subtractions for the Reds: Raisel Iglesias, who is their fireballing, although kind of iffy sometimes, closer. Archie Bradley went and signed with the Phillies. Freddie Galvis, I don't know if he was a starter last year, but he got some time in the middle infield.
He'll be joining us later.
Anthony Descalfani, who was there for quite a while as back-end rotation guy, he is gone. And, of course, the big piece, Trevor Bauer, is now gone. Another team, Joe, that drove me insane trying to figure out what the heck they're doing, because I would say the Cubs and the Reds, but at least the Cubs kind of then fixed what they did and went and got some more pieces and brought them in. I talked about how they got rid of some pitchers, brought some pitchers back, got rid of an outfielder, brought an outfielder in. But here, the Reds brought in two guys worse than what they gave up in the bullpen, and then got rid of a bunch of pitchers, and they didn't bring anything in. Joe, what are the Reds doing?
What's in the water out in the Midwest? I just don't know. All right, so I have to start with the shortstop position. Derek, do you remember the night when I probably even texted you and said, there goes Galvis, there goes Simmons. Oh my God, it's a flurry of shortstops going.
Yeah.
Well, the Reds should have got one of those guys, Derek, because now they have Jose Garcia, who came and hit his weight, Derek. So that's one issue right there, shortstop. And Mike Moustakas, I said to you earlier off the air, Mike Moustakas has to be sitting there like, what am I going to do? Like, I signed this deal, and even though he's got Suarez at third, he's a pretty good hitter. Last year, Suarez hit 15 home runs. He was one of the guys. Him and Castellanos actually had pretty good years, but average is low. But Suarez knocked in 38, 15 homers. Castellanos, 14 homers, 35 RBIs. Center field will be interesting with Shogo Akiyama or Nick Senzel. Whoever doesn't win that job will be a bench guy. If I'm looking at the lineup, Derek, man, I don't know. I mean, you look at it, 1 through 6 isn't terrible, but man, I mean, 7 and 8 is pretty bad. And I don't know. My first question to you, I guess, is how good is Joey Votto still?
That's very funny. I have a question down here. I said, what can Joey Votto bring anymore?
Not enough. I mean, this is just,
but what do they need from Joey Votto? They have Castellanos there, as you mentioned. He's probably a 25 to 30 home run guy. Suarez is notably known to be upwards of like 35 to 40 home runs.
Right.
Moustakas could be the same thing. I think they need someone who's going to hit for some average, because all of them. Yeah, all of them are. Castellanos is about a 260 hitter. Suarez is no better than a 250 hitter. Moustakas is no better than that. Yeah, and I mean, you got the leadership from Votto, but at 37, it's tough to see what you're going to get from him anymore. There's not a lot of stolen base potential there. No. None of those guys scream at you, oh my God, he's going to steal a ton of bases.
Maybe Senzel again. Maybe.
Yeah, and if Senzel,
pretty quick.
I would say we talked about the center field position. That's probably between Akiyama and Senzel. We said Akiyama, I mentioned, got a 3-year, $21 million deal, but really didn't hit very well. No home runs, 246 last year. Maybe he had some adjustments coming over from Japan. Right. And Senzel was the golden boy in this farm system for so long.
Yes, he was.
He's now almost 26 years old, and hasn't broken through. So maybe he'll be that super utility guy. He's projected to be about 500 at bats. So I think that's what they're saying, is he's going to be kind of the super utility.
Play some second too.
And another name, I'll mention him in the prospects, but Tyler Stevenson is another guy who could probably split the time with Tucker Barnhart at catcher, but he's a big minor league player who they've 2015 now. So he's another guy that's almost 25 years old.
They're not getting their guys up. They're not getting them to produce, at least.
Yeah.
It's. Well, I also noticed.
Yeah, let's move. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, yeah. I just noticed that Suarez was 3 for 35 at the halfway point. Now, that tells you something. He's feast or famine. And Joey Votto was hitting 191 at one point in the season. So right there, 2-year big bats, and they're not even producing for you. So God, I mean, that
I know Suarez is very much known to be a streaky guy. There can be a 2-week where he gets 10 to 12 home runs, but then doesn't hit for anything. So
right.
And it's almost like you have too many of those guys on this team, and they needed some guys that are going to consistently get on base. Let's talk a little bit about the pitching staff here. Obviously no more Trevor Bauer, so they got worse. They didn't bring any starting pitchers in.
Definitely.
couldn't get past the first round even with Bauer. But if you're going to have two starters, you could do a lot worse than having Sonny Gray and Luis Castillo are the two studs that are there, rounding out. You're looking at someone like Taylor Molly, or that is, he he's been up there for quite a while, and he gets his innings, but 2019 he had a 5 ERA. Someone like Wade Miley, is going to eat up innings, but he's not going to have any worse. Yeah, left-hander, never going to be any worse or better than a 4 ERA or so. What are the thoughts on the pitching staff, Joe?
I love Castillo.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said that before to you, I think, too. He's so good. Electric stuff, young guy, just a good pitcher. He'll be fine. Sonny Gray's interesting. You know what I've done? Sonny Gray's that guy like Zach Greinke. He can't pitch in big markets, so Cincinnati's probably good for him. He did good in Oakland. He didn't do so good in New York, though. But then now he's in Cincinnati, and he seems to be back to being that guy. He can handle it. So he's interesting. Tyler Mahle, I'm not sure. I don't know too much about him. Miley's a tough lefty, though, that will get out and give you innings. And Derek, the one guy we didn't talk about, and the one guy I'm really intrigued to see how he keeps doing, is right-hander Mike Lorenzen. If you've ever seen him, this kid is really athletic. He can play center field, and he can hit, Derek. So, I would love to see him. I mean, they might need it, Derek.
He's probably potentially going for that. Well, Miley is probably well set in there so long as he stays healthy. But he's going for that fifth rotation spot. Yeah, I would say he's not a lock, but he's the leader for that spot.
Really athletic.
Look at someone like Jose De Leon from Tampa Bay, who was there for quite a while. Maybe he could be the long reliever. But again, after that,
they don't scare me.
What else is there? There's not a ton left.
There's a lot of black holes in there.
Yeah,
Jesse Winkler. I mean, he's okay. 250 last year, 12 home runs. They're going to be powered by the leadoff spot, right? Whether it's Ikeyami or Senzel. Mm-hmm. Castellanos, Votto, Suarez. Again, you know what? The Reds and the Cubs are very similar. They need 1 through 4 to do damage.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot after it, right? It's really not that hard. It's not math here. This is not equation. You just gotta.
Yeah, I kind of meant, and we kind of have mentioned all the strengths. The middle of the lineup seems to be the strength, and that's where it needs to, and as well as the top 2 in the rotation, at least. But I have weaknesses. The defense is not going to be very good. They're not going to hit for average. I don't think the relief pitching is going to be very good this year. They brought in Doolittle. I don't know if Doolittle is going to be the closer. Look for someone like Amir Garrett. He's very another good left-hander.
Yeah, very good.
But
Lucas Sims is decent.
Not a lot of speed. Not going to steal some bases. Let me just throw out the couple guys they have in the prospects to look out for. None of these guys are really going to be for 2021, so I'll only mention in detail the one that is. Nick Lodolo is ranked number 59. He's a left-handed pitcher. 2022, probably look for him. Hunter Green is a right-handed pitcher, number 71. Again, 22, look out for him.
I remember he was picked. I remember he's drafted. They love him.
Oh, yeah.
The Reds love Green.
Austin Hendrick is their third prospect, number 86 outfielder. He's not for 2023 or 2024. He just got drafted, I think.
19. He's only 19.
And then number 95 catcher is Tyler Stevenson, who'll probably make the team out of camp. They say he shortened his swing, improved his strength. He hits the ball hard, well regarded defensively. Probably going to split with Barnhart at catcher. So I guess we'll see where
they're young
the
players.
Reds go. Do
They're
they
young.
move backwards?
Well, their young players have to step up. You just mentioned a couple of them, but there's another one, Jonathan India. He's a third baseman. He's ranked, I think, fourth on their list, fourth or fifth. He's 24 years old. He was a top pick in 18, and he's an on base guy. So India, Green, Stevenson, if those three can really pan out, you're looking at a pretty exciting team with Senzel and Mustakis. And so there you go.
In a year or two.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, shout us out on the timeout page or comment if you're an NL Central fan, and we feel bad for you if you are. But please comment, because there's not a lot to go on for your hopes and dreams this year.
So we will go on here to the Milwaukee Brewers. Milwaukee Brewers finished last year in fourth place, but again, still made the playoffs at 29-31. They lost 2-0 to the LA Dodgers in the NL wild card. Coach Craig Counsell is coming back for his 7th season. He is 405 and 381. Now we'll talk about the additions and subtractions for the Brewers real quick. This is a little bit more in the positive direction.
This is a good team.
Yeah,
this is a good team.
Some additions for the Brewers. Colton Wong is going to probably be the starting second baseman this year. Let's not forget about Lorenzo Cain, who actually opted out last year, and he will be back starting in center field most likely. Some interesting minor league additions for the Brewers. Travis Shaw, who will probably be competing for third base. Brad Boxberger, who will be probably somewhere in the bullpen. Carl Edwards Jr. as well, maybe in the bullpen. And Jordan Zimmerman, former National, who could end up in the back of the rotation at some point. Subtractions, longtime Milwaukee Brewer Ryan Braun, who currently doesn't have a team, so maybe he makes his way back, but as of now, he doesn't. Eric Sogard and Ben Gamel are two other ones. Joe, let's just jump right into it. What do you think are some strengths and some weaknesses for the Milwaukee Brewers heading into the year?
Well, anytime you have a guy like Christian Yelich, that's a strength. I mean, he's right. I mean, I'm not trying to be obvious here, but he's a heck of a player. And you're talking about a guy that even in a tough year last year, he still hit 12 home runs and 22 RBIs. The average was down to 205. But you have Luis Urias and Keaston Hira as your guys that are like bookending him. That's not good. Like, that's not really that good. The Brewers are good because guys like Daniel Vogelbach, who sounds like he should be in Oakland A, he hit 328 last year, 14 home runs. But Avisel Garcia, former American League outfielder, hit 238, 15 RBIs. You said it, though. The guy like Lorenzo Cain, the veteran, Yelich, it's a pretty good outfield. Derek, I will say this, though, and I'm going to pose this question to you. Wong comes in, and to me, Wong's your starting second baseman, but is there a competition between former Cardinal Colton Wong and Keston Hira? Is there a competition at all?
Because Hira apparently cannot play second base. So there will be, right. And Wong is a lot better defensively. He's probably going to be playing first base is where Hira is going to go. Then Dan Vogelbach will play. I mean, he was a former Mariner. He doesn't hit for any average. He's just a big power guy. So he might be in there. Last year. Well, did he really? I mean,
because he left the Mariners.
Yeah, I guess he.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
So when you look at that top of that lineup, you got Wong, Lorenzo. It'll be interesting to see what you get out of Cain this year. Yelich. The third base competition is interesting.
Because it's Shaw.
Does Shaw make it back to what he was? He was a very good, he might have even been an all-star caliber third baseman. Right. Yeah, for Boston.
Urias too. Wait, did he play for Boston?
Back in the day, I know he did. I don't know when he was with Toronto just last year.
That's right. And the Brewers too before. Yeah.
Another name they say is Daniel Robertson, who could potentially win that third base job. He was a former top prospect in the Oakland farm system, as well as you mentioned Luis Urias. Is that who it
Arias.
is?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's been up. He's been up for the Padres when he was with the Padres, but he was traded. Um, Actually November 2019 he was traded to Milwaukee, so look for him to come up. He can play the middle infield, he can play third base.
I like Garcia, Derek. I like Orlando Garcia. Uh, he seems to make things happen. Not a lot of power, but he had 20 RBIs. He had 260. He could be their starting shortstop. He's penciled in as their shortstop
Yes,
in
he
my
will be.
yeah. So he's a good player. He hit ninth though, so or eighth. You're not really going to get a lot out of him, probably, but you know,
You
it's
need
not
a
like
little more out of Omar Narvaez, another former Mariner. They brought him in to be a left-handed hitter, and he was really bad last year.
well, that's good.
So we'll
That's
see. We'll
only
see how, if he can turn his hitting around a little bit.
right.
Um, as far as the pitchers, Joe,
Mhm.
they have two of the best bullpen arms
Oh
in
my,
maybe all of the major leagues.
so many rumors
Josh
out
Hader
there. Yep.
and Devin Williams. You want to talk about them real quick?
Well, number one, Josh Hader is so fun to watch. That guy, his hair, his whole look is just fun to watch. He's really talented though. The guy can throw off baseball. The Yankees were interested in him in the offseason. My Phillies were interested in the offseason. There's teams that were going to have to give up their farm to get him, Derek. I'm talking about 1 to 5, probably. You're going to give
He
all that
wasn't
to get
going
him.
anywhere.
He isn't going anywhere. The reason he's not going anywhere is because he had a 3.79 ERA. It's not the best, but he still gets a lot of guys out.
No, I don't know where you're looking. That was Hader. That was
Yeah,
Hader.
so no. Devin Williams won the Rookie of the Year because he had an
Yes.
0.33 ERA. Derek, is that
Okay.
even possible? Is that even possible?
I guess he did it.
I mean, he did it. So no, I look at Brandon Woodruff though, 305.
Mm.
In the pitching show, I told you I really like him, big righty. And Corbin Burns, he had a 2.11 last year. He was really effective.
Yeah.
So, but Josh Lindblom is terrible, by the way. We got him in a deal with the Dodgers. He is awful, Derek, and he's number 3 as of now. I don't know if I'm right about that.
Yeah. No, that's what
yeah.
I see too.
Okay. Yeah. And Adrian Hauser, is he the 4?
Mhm.
Would he be the 4?
Yeah.
And then we got Freddie Peralta.
Well, they
Freddie
brought
Peralta?
it. They just again, excuse me. They just brought in Brett Anderson again. So he'll
that's
probably
right.
be somewhere as long as he stays healthy. Yeah, no,
Good
I
lefty.
agree. Corbin Burns is probably one of the best pitchers in the NL that people aren't talking about.
Right, underrated.
High 90s fastball, he's kind of like an old school pitcher, and he's got a sinker, he's got a cutter, he's got a good slider. Yeah, he's but he can throw a lot harder than Greg Maddux.
Well, he never threw hard.
I think he got knocked out and wasn't able to be in the playoffs last year. So I would have been interested to see Woodruff and Burns line up against. Obviously, Woodruff got hit a little bit, but I think they could have won that game, a second game with Burns. But you mentioned, but how does the back end? It seems to be a theme here. How does the back end of the rotation does it stack up or hold up, I should say? Lindblom had a 5 ERA last year. Adrian Hauser had a over 5 ERA last year. Brett Anderson was over 4. I'd be interested. I think Freddie Peralta might actually be someone who jumps into that rotation at some point this year. Brent Suter is another bullpen arm who I'm interested. I know he threw a lot of. He's a starter, but maybe they're transitioning him to the bullpen, and I think he'd be better there because right now they have him as the 7th inning guy.
Can I throw Odorizzi's name out there again?
I mean, and maybe Odorizzi is a spot for all these teams. So maybe except for the Pirates, they probably don't have a need for him. But
Cardinals, they kind of do too. Yeah,
I'll just throw out the couple prospects here. Garrett Mitchell is their top prospect, number 65 overall outfielder. Again, not till 2023 will you see him. Big, strong center fielder who can steal bases. And then Bryce Terang is number 96. He's a up the middle shortstop, second base, 2022. Look for him. Seems to do everything well, they say. 4 slightly above average tools, so disciplined hitter, super utility guy. Look for him probably. But
Eric, I got one. I got one you might not have. He's probably not on the baseball's top 100. Left-hand pitcher, 22-year-old Aaron Ashby was the organization's minor league pitcher of the year in 2019. So again, that's somebody that you could look for in the next couple of years from the left-hand
probably
side.
Yeah, probably middle 2021. You might even, or end of 2021, you might even see him.
So remember that name, Ashby. I don't know if this is the son of former Phillies pitcher Andy or Alan Ashby, because they both pitched for the Phillies and Padres. I didn't look that up, but we will be talking about father-son combo with the next team we do, one of them.
Yes.
Yes, I'm excited about that, actually.
I will just throw out a couple names. Look for the back end of the rotation for the Brewers. Eric Lauer, who is a guy who played for the Padres over the past few years. Again, nothing spectacular, but it's guys who can eat up innings, and that's might be what they need to get the ball back to Woodruff and Burns. A Jordan Zimmerman might be another name you might see out there, have some innings, but, you know.
Derek, Woodruff and Burns, you created a law firm. I like that. Woodruff
Sounds
and Burns.
good.
This sounds good.
So that'll bring us to the Pittsburgh Pirates, who, I have finished fourth, but they did not. They finished fifth. At 19-41, Coach Derek Shelton is in his second season, obviously 19-41 last year. We could talk about the additions and subtractions, but so people know, the Pirates are deep in the thick of a rebuild. So there's probably going to not be a lot of games won this year, but the future is very bright. We will talk about the prospects in just a little bit. A couple older names they brought in: Tyler Anderson, a lefty starting pitcher, and Todd Frazier. Recently they signed. A lot of subtractions. Josh Bell was traded away. Joe Musgrove is no longer there. Jameson Taillon, who missed all last season, a very good starting pitcher now with the Yankees. Chris Archer, who they traded for, is now gone. Keone Kela, relief pitcher, is gone, as well as Trevor Williams for the who we just talked about earlier with the Cubs, I believe. Joe, I think we can pretty much just go to the main portion of what the Pirates need to look for, and that's the prospects. The top prospect is someone who probably, is definitely starting at third base this year.
Well, and I just want to give you 3 names, and they're very easily why I'm saying these 3 names is they have a lot in common with what the Pirates really are, and that's Tyler Glasnow, Garrett Cole, Starling Marte, and Andrew McCutchen. They all got traded from Pittsburgh. You can't win baseball games if you trade your best players all the time, and they do it consistently all the time. So that's 4 guys I think our listeners need to hear about that are no longer Pirates for whatever reason. You just mentioned him, and I was shocked when I read it. His father played for the Rockies, the Yankees, the Giants, and the Phillies. And we're talking about Charlie Hayes, and his son now is Ke'Bryan Hayes. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I grew up watching Charlie Hayes play. So it'd be kind of cool to see his son. It also makes you feel kind of old there.
Yeah.
But it makes you feel really old. But anyway, I will say, though, that he is supposed to be the real deal, man. He had 376 last year, 15 homers and 11 RBIs. I look for Adam Frazier, though, to have another good year. He had 23 RBIs. Colin Moran had 23 RBIs. Brian Reynolds with a tough year. But again, you said it. It's going to be this young kid, and I know we'll touch on some of the young guys uh, in a little bit. But I have a question about the lineup. What do you think would make them even more exciting? Do you think it would be a middle of the order bat because you get rid of Bell, or do you think maybe just keep on bringing the young guys up and hoping people will step up?
Yeah, no reason to bring in any more people.
Good
I mean,
trade.
they got someone like Todd Frazier who will be a utility guy to eat up some innings, but they're moving on. They're moving on with the prospects, the young guys. You mentioned Cabrian Hayes. He's guess what? He's going to be a potential Gold Glover every year. He's that good at third base, and you had to kick somebody out of third base to put him in, right? Well, that was Colin Moran. He's now going to be the first baseman, but Moran was a three-time Gold Glover in the minor leagues himself. So he's. It seems like they're going to have a good defensive team at least. Um, but yeah, there have been rumors about Adam Frazier maybe even being traded. So he may be the next one out. Who knows if he's still on the
Yeah.
team?
Right.
Gregory Polanco is one of the most frustrating players out there who can't stay healthy. Um, but not a lot in the bullpen to talk about. Richard Rodriguez is someone who may close. He had I just had it up. He had a 2.7 ERA last year in 23 innings, so he's a positive point for them. Kyle Crick is another name. He was
From a giant prospect.
1.59 ERA last year.
Yeah.
Um, Bullpen or the rotation, Joe. I mean, it's guys who are pretty much going to eat up innings
Yeah.
before the young guys come up. Stephen Brault, Chad Kuhl, Tyler Anderson, probably not guys who are, you know, a future for the Pirates, but someone like Mitch Keller, he is, and he was a top prospect for a long time, and he's probably gonna. They're gonna hope that he could take that next step to become the potential lead to that starting rotation.
Yeah, I mean, he had a 2.91 ERA last year, and he's a right-hander. But again, and they look at what they did just a while. They just traded Talion too. He would have been in the
Yeah,
rotation. They traded Talion, and so a lot of these guys really kind of, they don't have the depth, or even at the top, they don't have the depth to really go out there and win games. And you're playing against the Cardinals, the Brewers. You got to go up against the Mets and the Braves, Phillies. Like you're gonna have tough Padres, Dodgers. So it's gonna be tough for them to compete. Do you think there's any way they can, not to spoil it for a show at the end of March? Do you think there's any way though that they can finish better than fifth though?
um, I think they're gonna be the more guys they bring up, the more young and exciting they're gonna be. I think it's possible. I'll just say it. I probably have the Reds at fourth.
Right.
So I think they could give them a run for their money if the Reds rotation doesn't turn out to be, the back end
Terrible.
doesn't turn out to be that great, and
Right.
the hitters don't hit how they need to hit. Then I think the surprising Pirates could win a good amount of games, not come close to 500, but um, some young guys. Now these guys are a little bit closer. Um, some guys to look out for. Obviously, we mentioned Cabrian Hayes. He's the number 9 prospect starting at third base. Probably going to win the job out of. Be very shocked if he doesn't, unless he got hurt. Consistent Gold Glove contender is what he's going to be right out of the gate. Tremendous range, great footwork, a plus arm. Probably could get you about 10 to 15 stolen bases a year. He's not going to probably have the power that he showed at the end of last year. That was a little bit fluky, they say. But Another name is Nick Gonzalez to look out for. He'll could probably make the team out of 2022 maybe. Second baseman, short, compact swing, ton of bat speed. Probably more of a doubles hitter though. Solid base runner. Um, Quinn Priestier, number 52. He's a right-handed pitcher. Probably 2023. He'll be up mid 90s fastball. Good command to be a mid rotation guy. And another one to look out for, maybe the end of this year, maybe 2022, is O'Neal Cruz. They say he's got to get a little stronger. He could be more of a home run hitter, but runs very well. Joe, 6'7". I said shortstop. He's 6'7".
Troy
So
Tulowitzki.
they say he's actually, they don't have
Six.
plans to move him right now, but
Right.
he could
Better
profile as a corner outfielder. So.
third base too, even if Kay Bryant's there though.
So Joe, any last thoughts on the Pirates? I mean, we talked about the strength is probably the young guys, and weaknesses maybe everything else. But do we have any last thoughts on the Pirates?
I hope for Pirates fans that, they can just kind of latch onto the youth and, we
Yeah.
see them, hit and, maybe pitch some games well, but they're going to just be a product of just a team that doesn't want to keep a team together. And that's sad for fans. It's tough to get behind that. So, but no, I think we're both going to have them down near the bottom of the division. So that's what we'll be, stay tuned on Timeout for the show at the end of March for that.
Yeah, I may try to get them a little higher, but
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
Watching games helps too, Derek, with spring training.
Yes. Yeah, we'll have to see how they come together.
Yeah.
Which will bring us to the final team in the NL Central, and that will be maybe you would probably say the favorite in the division. The St. Louis Cardinals. Last year, the Cardinals finished second, made the playoffs at 30-28. Is that right? Oh, that's right. I think they ended up not playing a couple games because of COVID-19. They couldn't make them up. I think that's why they had less than 60.
That's why.
They lost 2-1, which was actually a pretty good series to the San Diego Padres. 4-5 matchup in the NL wild card. Coach Mike Shildt is in his third season. They were he's 132 and 99. Joe, just overall thoughts on when you dove into the St. Louis Cardinals, what you're thinking for them.
Well, I've been the voice of the obvious today, and I'm going to say that the Cardinals are the best team in the division. I mean, it's close, but it's probably about accurate. Listen, the acquisition of Nolan Arenado is absolutely humongous, right? It's absolutely humongous. It's funny because I looked at the lineup and I'm like, wait, Matt Carpenter, third base leading off. Matt Carpenter, you're on the bench or you're finding another position to play. So I want to say, though, I will ask you this because this is going to pose a very interesting question. If Carpenter's not leading off, do you lead off Tommy Edman or do you lead off Paul DeJong or is there Dexter Fowler? Like, who do you lead off in the lineup?
I think it'll be Tommy Edman. He has a little bit of pop, a little bit of stolen base potential. I don't think you can do Harrison Bader, who is probably going to win the center field job.
He's pretty
because
too.
I don't know if he hits well enough for average.
Yeah.
I think you're pretty well set. You'll have Paul DeJong, who is a very good defensive shortstop, but offensive, he can still hit a lot of home runs. That's for sure.
Knocked in 25. Yeah.
I think the key, stupid key, but Nolan Arenado joining the lineup is going to be a very key in that Paul Goldschmidt no longer has to be the guy to carry the offense. When he was slow, they were slow.
Right.
He's 33 years old, almost 34 years old now. So
Yeah.
he can't be the guy day in and day out needing to get this team runs. Now that Nolan Arenado is backing him up, that's you couldn't ask for much better than Nolan Arenado.
Right.
Tons of young guys that what I saw when I looked at their we could just talk about the lineup for now, but when I looked at the lineup, I said, you know what, they have a ton of great a combination of veterans as well as the
Yeah.
young guys in there. You're going to
Yep.
see, and I'm going to talk about the prospects in a bit, but someone like Dylan Carlson,
Yep.
22 years old, probably going to be the starting right fielder, maybe. Um, Someone like Tyler O'Neill, another former Mariner, um, who could potentially reach 30 home runs. He has that power
He's got some
potential.
pop. Yeah.
Harrison Bader's another young guy, but to go along with the Goldschmidts and the Yadier Molina, who is back for another season with
Another
St.
one.
Louis,
One more year. 38 years old.
and Matt Carpenter. So
He'll be
that's something
used.
I loved was the combination of the veterans and the young guys on this team that I don't think was quite prevalent on the rest of the teams in the Central.
They remind me a lot of Atlanta. They really do. They have that, like, and now I'm not saying the talent level's all there because I don't see a Ronald Acuna out in the outfield, and I don't even probably
Right.
see, in Ozzy Albies even in the infield, to be honest with you. I mean, I know Arenado can play, but Arenado's a better hitter than he is. I mean, he's a good defender. I shouldn't say that, but he's just a great player no matter what. So I shouldn't say that he's better than Albies. I retract that statement. Now, I will. This is interesting. I just saw this. Edman, Carlson, Fowler, all switch hitters. Now that means something. If you're playing against a lefty, say you got Matt Moore out there, Derek, and you're sitting there and you're like, all right, we're gonna lead off Edman, who's gonna bat righty. You don't want to have Arenado, Goldschmidt. You don't want to have a bunch of righties, is what I'm saying. I wonder if they're going to break up Arenado and Goldschmidt with Fowler.
Fowler's gone. I can tell you that.
My book is letting me down, Derek. It hasn't.
No, that's all right.
There.
That's all right.
That's okay.
Fowler's gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So,
okay.
Real quick, yeah, they brought the only addition they brought in was Arenado, but then Dexter Fowler, Colton Wong, and Brad Miller are three guys who are gone.
Brad Miller's a Philly. That's right.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
they got to figure it out. They got to figure out a balanced lineup. I think that's what they're going to struggle with a little bit.
Yeah, they have a lot of right-handed hitters. It's DeYoung, Goldschmidt, Arenado, Molina, O'Neill, Bader. They're all right-handed. You got Carpenter, but what is Carpenter going to give you? He's probably going to be the super utility type guy.
He's got Kingery like.
Yeah, but
Edman.
I think a huge strength that I'll jump to here is the bullpen for the Cardinals. They have three guys that you could legitimately say, here's the ball in the ninth inning, go close it out. And any of those four guys could do it.
Andrew Miller.
Reyes, I don't know who's going to be the closer.
Right.
But Alex Reyes is who closed at the end of last year, who is actually a former starter. So Giovanni Gallegos, however you say that.
That's right. That's right.
He's another great pitcher. Andrew Miller has been there for for a few years now. You could still have him do it. And then Jordan Hicks is a fireballer.
He's penciled in there, I guess. He might be the guy.
Joe, the bullpen is great. The top end of the rotation is pretty well set. Yeah. What do we see as maybe some weaknesses on the pitching end? Are there any weaknesses pitching wise?
Well, I'll tell you right now, Jack Flaherty's not a weakness. He is one of the best pitchers in baseball. He's proven that postseason 2 years in a row, right? Kwang Hung Kim, I don't know much about him, but he's a 1.62 ERA last year. So if he does that, that's gonna be a
Yeah.
problem. Now it's a longer season, so we'll give him like over a 2 ERA. That's still good though. Miles Michaelis was injured all last season, so we'll see
Hmm.
what he can bring in. He's a pretty good arm though. Carlos Martinez, Derek, he could be the one. If he has a big market down,
That's the question.
that right, can he step up? Can he be the guy to give innings? And Adam Wainwright, Adam Wainwright, I saw him in the interview on MLB Network. He goes, I need Yachty back. Well, guess what? You got Yachty back. There you go. It's you and Yachty. So Wainwright's a really good veteran. So maybe Martinez is the question mark. Michaelis needs to come back from injury. Jake Odorizzi, Derek, I'm saying it again. He makes sense here. But other than that, they're not very weak, Derek.
And I love the bullpen. I mentioned that there's not a lot of weaknesses there. I will say I think the difference this year between the Cardinals joining the Dodgers, the Padres, and maybe the Braves, between joining that tier and the tier of making the playoffs but not quite good enough as those teams to move on to past the wild card round. The difference between those two things happening, I think, is Carlos Martinez and Miles Mikolas. You know what you're getting out of Flaherty. Kim was very good last year. Ken Carlos Martinez, I don't even know. When was the last 2018, 17 maybe was the last time that he was a legit very good starter that was not hurt.
Right.
If he can make his way back to that, I would put him up there. I put him up there with the Braves, with the Dodgers,
Also,
with the Padres.
Watch out for a big trade from St. Louis. They do this. Um, they traded Arezarona to Tampa to Tampa for that Libertor, who we're going to get to, I'm sure. But Derek, just think about this. Matt Boyd's out in Detroit. Why, if you're not St. Louis, you get on the phone at the trade deadline and say, we're really good. I mean, I know Matt Boyd's not great, but he gives you a lefty and he gives you a different look. I don't know. I wouldn't put it, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Someone in AAA they could look at is like a Johan Oviedo. Look for him maybe this year as well. And then you look at the rest of their prospects. So we mentioned Dylan Carlson. He's probably going to make the team out of spring training without any doubt. Number 13 prospect. Above average.
So he could lead off. It makes sense. He could lead off too.
I think he's more of he can hit, or for power. So
so he's probably
going to have him middle. Okay. Gotcha. Switch hitter, average or better tools, they say, across the board. Good patience, potentially plus power, above average runner. Can hold his own in center field, but probably more of a corner outfielder. You mentioned Matthew Libertor, number 37 prospect, left-handed. Probably won't be there till 2022. 6'5", huge with a 4-pitch mix, 3 of which are above average. Sharp curveball, low 90s fastball, very clean delivery with good command. So they say he's someone who can probably rise up pretty quickly. And then someone else to look out for who could potentially make a difference this year is Nolan Gorman, who is their number 38 prospect, third baseman. But he seems to be another guy who is an all or nothing hitter, great power, but strikes out a lot. Pull heavy, average defender. But look for him to potentially make a splash this year as well. Any last thoughts on the Cardinals, Joe?
I just think it's their division to lose, and if the Cubs and the Brewers aren't good enough, they might run away with it. So the Cubs and Brewers are noticed from me on the timeout.
I think if that back end of the rotation for the Cardinals turns out to be a strength, I think they could run away with it. If they don't, it could be close.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But that'll do it for our NL Central a preview. We ran through the Chicago Cubs, Cincinnati Reds, Milwaukee Brewers, Pittsburgh Pirates, and St. Louis Cardinals. Are you a NL Central fan? As Joe mentioned, please let us know in the comments and let us know what your thoughts are on your team and where you think that they'll finish in the division. If not, feel free to jump down and let us know who you think is going to take the division. You'll see Joe and I's final choices at the end of our previews. But Joe, any last thoughts from you?
No, listen. I just think that this was a really tough division, so people understand that it was really, really difficult to do. I'm actually really looking forward to our first base show on whenever we do it at the end of the week, I'll say. And then next week we will be coming to you with the AL East, and I'm excited for that. I'm starting that tonight, actually. Going to do my research tonight on the Baltimore Orioles, Derek. But no, we're going to have Derek's good friend Phil, and hopefully a friend of mine in the future, because I think he's a very nice guy, and I'm excited to talk to him again. So, we're gonna have some fun as always. Please like, comment, and all the podcast platforms. You can catch us on YouTube, as Derek always says. I'm trying to help Derek out with the shtick here. But anyway, thanks for always listening and all the support. We always really appreciate from all you listeners out there.
Yes, we thank you very much. And yes, follow us on YouTube, all podcast platforms, Twitter, Facebook page, everywhere. We're everywhere. But
you can't get away from us.
If you happen to miss last show, it was the top 5 catchers. Go out and check that out. And then, as Joe mentioned, end of the week we'll be doing top 5 first basemen as we go around the diamond in the MLB and AL East next week. So tune in for that preview. But until then, we thank you very much for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us here at Timeout. For Joe Azalina, I am Derek Cano. Everyone stay safe and take care.